a crumbling Victorian-era theater known as the Marrowlight, built atop a ley line intersection. Its foundation is soaked in centuries of ritual blood, betrayal, and spectral torment. The ghostlight on stage never goes out, not because of superstition, but because extinguishing it unleashes the trapped souls beneath. The witch's black magic. A coven known as the Hollow Sisters once used the theater as a ritual site, casting spells that fed off audience emotions. Joy, grief, rage to fuel their dark workings. Their hatred for energy vampires stems from a failed pact. The vampires betrayed them, draining their power and leaving them cursed to wander as half-spirits. The witch's spellbook, the Grimoire of Echoes, is hidden in the rafters, bound in skin and inked in sorrow. Energy vampires. These aren't your typical bloodsuckers, they feed on psychic energy, especially from performers. One vampire, Velen, poses as a charismatic director manipulating cast members into emotional breakdowns to feast on their despair. They can't be killed, only forgotten. Ghosts their stories. Clara, a young actress from the 1920s, was sacrificed. During a ritual gone wrong, her ghost flickers in and out of scenes, trying to warn the living. The stagehand, a faceless entity, drags chains across the floor, each link forged from a broken promise. Elias, a playwright who wrote his final script in blood, relives his suicide every opening night. Themes: undercurrents. The cost of ambition when tethered to dark forces. The theater as a liminal space between worlds. The idea that art can resurrect but also destroy. The ghosts aren't just victims, they're witnesses to humanity's darkest urges. As darkness enveloped the world, pages turned in silence, revealing secrets long hidden. In the stillness, soft murmurs danced like shadows, weaving tales of transformation. Each line, once static, now pulsated with life, whispering promises of new beginnings. The night became a canvas, brushing strokes of change upon the hearts of those willing to listen, igniting hope with every breath of the unseen breeze. The theater loomed like a mausoleum, its marquee flickering with letters long dead. Sparrow stepped inside, the air thick with dust and memory. Velvet seats lined the auditorium like silent witnesses. The ghostlight burned faintly on stage, casting long shadows that moved when she didn't. The cast gathered slowly: Lucille, Ezra, Mara, Theo, each drawn by something they couldn't name. Velen, the director, watched from the balcony, his presence too still, too sharp. Rehearsals began, but the script was wrong. Pages changed overnight. Lines whispered themselves. The Grimoire of Echoes appeared in Sparrow's dressing room, bound in skin, humming softly. She opened it. The ink bled. The theater exhaled. The stage resisted them. Lines forgotten. Blocking reversed. Lights flickered in patterns that mimicked Morse code. Lucille danced with a grace not her own. Ezra wept between scenes. Mara began to hum in her sleep. Theo stopped blinking. Velen grew more radiant, feeding on their confusion. Sparrow read the grimoire nightly. Each page revealed a scene not yet rehearsed, a memory not yet hers. The Hollow Sisters were mentioned: Talia, Morel, Cora, Lysandra. Bound by silence. Buried beneath the boards. The ghost light pulsed. The curtains twitched. The theater began to remember. Sparrow found the mirror room behind the props closet, a space not listed on any blueprint. Dozens of mirrors lined the walls, each reflecting a different version of her: older, younger, stitched, screaming. She stepped inside. The door vanished. In the mirrors, the Hollow Sisters moved. Their mouths were sealed. Their eyes pleaded. Sparrow reached out. Her reflection didn't follow. The grimoire appeared on the floor, open to a page titled Scene 3, The Reflection That Lies. She read. The mirrors cracked. Her shadow split. Velen grew stronger. The cast grew weaker. Ezra collapsed during rehearsal. Mara danced until her feet bled. Theo began speaking in riddles. Lucille stopped sleeping. Sparrow watched Velen feed, not on blood, but on energy, memory, fear. He stood beneath the ghost light, arms raised, absorbing the echoes of the past. The grimoire revealed a ritual. A binding. A betrayal. Sparrow traced the symbols with trembling fingers. The ink burned her skin. The Hollow Sisters stirred. The boards beneath the stage groaned. Velen smiled. Sparrow woke in the dressing room, though she hadn't slept. The mirror showed her stitched mouth. The grimoire lay open, pulsing. A new page had written itself. Scene V. The mouths that were sewn. She stepped onto the stage. Lucille stood center, humming in layered tones. Velen watched from the wings, colder now, skeletal. The ghost light flared. The Hollow Sisters whispered through Sparrow's body. Her voice became theirs. Her breath became theirs. Velen approached. The stage rejected him. Sparrow collapsed. The theater listened. Time fractured. Sparrow became Lysandra. The year was 1896. The theater was new, gleaming, cursed. The Hollow Sisters stood in a circle, mouths stitched with ritual silence. Velen descended, younger, radiant, monstrous. The grimoire was his then. Blood was offered. Names were silenced. The stage drank deep. The ritual bound them. They were buried. Forgotten. Sparrow awoke in the present, gasping. The ink from the grimoire threaded through her veins. The boards beneath her pulsed. Velen watched. The past had risen. The grimoire no longer obeyed Velen. It hovered above the stage, pages turning in windless air. Sparrow stood beneath it, arms outstretched. The Hollow Sisters rose from the boards, mouths unstitched, eyes burning. The ghost light shattered. Velen descended, trembling. The sisters encircled him. The theater groaned. Sparrow's body became a vessel. The ink bled into her skin. The stage shifted, alive, aware, hungry. A new page formed midair. Act 2, The Reckoning. Velen screamed. The curtains twitched. The performance had begun again. The walls bled. Not with blood, but with ink thick, black, and slow. It seeped from the cracks in the plaster, tracing ancient glyphs across the velvet wallpaper. The chandeliers above flickered in unnatural rhythm, casting shadows that danced without bodies. Sparrow stood center stage, the grimoire hovering before her, pages turning in silence. The ink had begun to thread through her veins, mapping her skin with forgotten verses. Her breath came in fragments, each one echoing through the rafters like a line from a play she hadn't rehearsed. The Hollow Sisters lingered at the edges of the stage, half-formed, half-remembered. Their presence bent the air. The boards beneath them pulsed like a heartbeat. The cast was gone. Lucille's shoes lay abandoned in the wings. Ezra's coat hung from a broken spotlight. Mara's ribbon floated in midair, suspended by memory. Theo's reflection lingered in the shattered mirror, blinking slowly. Velen had vanished. The theater groaned. The curtains twitched. The grimoire opened to its final page blank. Sparrow reached out, fingers trembling. The ink surged upward, forming a single line. To end the performance, one must become the silence. The ghost light reignited, burning blue. The stage split open. Below, the original altar-weighted stone, cracked, soaked in centuries of betrayal. The Hollow Sisters descended, their forms solidifying with each step. Sparrow followed, barefoot, bleeding ink. The altar pulsed. The grimoire burned. The theater screamed. Above, the marquee flickered once more. The letters rearranged thence. Now playing, The Reckoning. And then silence. Chapter 9, The Understage. The trapdoor yawned open, revealing a staircase that hadn't existed moments before. Sparrow descended slowly, the grimoire clutched to her chest, its pages fluttering in a wind that came from below. The ink on her skin pulsed with each step, syncing with the heartbeat of the theater. The air thickened. Walls narrowed. The light dimmed. She reached the bottom. The understage was vast, far larger than the building above. Stone pillars rose from the earth, carved with names long erased. Pools of ink shimmered between them, reflecting not her face, but her memories. Each step forward revealed another fragment, her childhood, her first performance, the moment she first heard the Hollow Sisters' song. At the center stood the altar. Not the one from Lysandra's time. Older. Cracked. Breathing. The Hollow Sisters encircled it, their forms flickering between flesh and shadow. They did not move. They did not speak. But their presence pressed against Sparrow's ribs, urging her forward. The grimoire opened. Its final page remained blank. Sparrow knelt before the altar. The ink from her veins began to spill, pooling into the stone. The theater above groaned. The rafters wept. The ghost light flared. The altar responded. Symbols ignited across its surface, ancient and hungry. The Hollow Sisters raised their hands. The understage trembled. And then, silence. Not absence of sound. The presence of silence. Heavy. Sacred. Final. Sparrow stood. The grimoire burned. The altar cracked. The hollow sisters vanished. Above, the theater collapsed inward, not destroyed, but folded, like a script at its final scene. The marquee outside flickered once more. Closed for renovation. Sparrow emerged into daylight. The ink remained. The silence followed. The theater was gone. Not destroyed, erased. Where it once stood, only a vacant lot remained, overgrown with weeds. That whispered in the wind. Sparrow stood at its edge, the grimoire reduced to ash in her pocket. The ink still pulsed beneath her skin, faint now, like a distant heartbeat. She walked. The city felt different. Quieter. The buildings leaned inward, as if listening. Streetlights flickered in patterns she recognized, rehearsal cues, forgotten blocking. Pedestrians passed her, their faces blurred, their shadows too long. She entered a cafe. The mirror behind the counter showed her stitched mouth. She blinked. It vanished. At night, her dreams returned, not hers, but Lyssandra's. Velvet curtains. Blood on stone. Velen's voice echoing through empty halls. She woke with ink on her fingertips, though she hadn't touched a pen. The hollow sisters lingered. Not as ghosts. As echoes. She heard them in music, in footsteps, in the rustle of paper. They were not bound to the theater. They were bound to her. One morning, she found a flyer on her doorstep. Auditions, The Reckoning. One night only. No address. No contact. Just a date. She burned it. The flames whispered. The ink pulsed. The silence returned. Chapter 11. The Audition. The building was wrong. It stood where the theater had once been, but it was taller now, narrower, made of black stone that absorbed light. No signage. No windows. Just a single door, red and pulsing like a wound. Sparrow entered. Inside, the stage was circular, surrounded by mirrors that reflected nothing. The seats were filled, but not with people. Silhouettes sat motionless, their forms blurred, their presence oppressive. The air smelled of old velvet and scorched paper. At the center of the stage stood a podium. Upon it, a script. Not printed. Written in ink that shimmered and shifted, forming words as she approached. The pages turned themselves, revealing scenes she hadn't lived, but somehow remembered. The hollow sisters were watching. Not from the wings. From within her. Their presence braided with her breath, her pulse, her thoughts. She stepped forward. The ink on her skin flared. The mirrors began to ripple. The silhouettes leaned in. The script opened to its first line. Sparrow raised her hand. The lights dimmed. The performance began. But she did not speak. She became the scene. Her body moved with choreography she hadn't learned. Her mouth opened in silence. Her shadow split into four. The mirrors cracked. The silhouettes vanished. The podium burned. The stage collapsed inward. And Sparrow stood alone. The audition was complete. But the role was eternal. Chapter 12. The Rewritten World. The city had changed. Not visibly. Not structurally. But rhythmically. Sparrow felt it in the way traffic lights blinked in iambic pentameter. In the way strangers paused mid-step as if waiting for a cue. In the way shadows lingered longer than they should. She walked through downtown, and every window became a proscenium. In a laundromat, a woman folded clothes with choreographed precision, her movements echoing a scene Sparrow had once rehearsed. In an alleyway, a man recited lines under his breath, lines from a play that had never been published. In a diner, the clink of silverware formed a melody she recognized from the Hollow Sisters' lament. The world was performing, and Sparrow was its audience. The ink on her skin had faded, but the silence remained. It followed her like a second heartbeat, pressing against her ribs, humming beneath her thoughts. She no longer dreamed, she remembered. Each night, she found a new flyer. Now playing, The Reckoning. Different locations. Same title. No cast list. She stopped attending. But the performances found her. A subway car transformed into a stage. A funeral procession became a ballet. A thunderstorm recited monologues in Morse code. The Hollow Sisters were everywhere. Not haunting. Rehearsing. Sparrow stood at the edge of a rooftop one evening, watching the city pulse below. The skyline shimmered, briefly, like a curtain rising. She understood then. The ritual hadn't ended. It had expanded. You've been listening to Ghostlight,